because they're married and they got 2 children. You need a bit more than that.
Yeah, how would you feel? How would you feel if somebody's hammering you like that?
Well, that's not the point. They deserve to be hammered. They keep telling lies about us.
Well, I don't think they deserve to be hammered.
Well, when they sat down with Oprah Winfrey, they told 17 untruths.
It's a bit biased.
Huh?
Why is it so biased?
What's biased?
It's so biased because.
But you don't even know what it is that they've done.
Well,
they accuse the royal family of being racists.
Do you know what they have done?
Yes,
do you know what they have done?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I do know what they've done. Yeah, I read all about it.
What have they done?
I just told you. How many more times do you want me to tell you? They accuse the royal family of being racist. They accuse this country of being racist. They accuse this country of being based on slavery. These are lies.
What are you shouting for?
Huh?
What are you shouting for? This is an open discussion.
Because you keep saying that I'm telling you what it is that they've done and that why they don't deserve our respect.
You have not said what they have done.
Okay.
Make it clear.
Right, okay. Shall we go around the houses one more time? Shall we? Let's do it. Hey, let's enjoy ourselves. What they've done, Caroline, for the final time, I'm not telling you this again, they accuse the royal family of being racist. They accuse this country of being racist. They also accuse this country of being based on slavery. All of this is not true. That's why they don't deserve our respect.
Were you there? Were you there when they accused the country of being racist? Were you there? Did you hear it out of their mouth?
I was there, and I'll tell you where I was. I'll tell you where I was. I was watching the TV when they were being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey.
And hearing is believing.
Caroline, next time you want to make an argument, get the information. In fact, watch the telly. Did you even watch?
Leave these people alone. Leave the people alone.
No. Did you watch the?
Married, leave them alone. Let them live their lives.
I don't care if they're married. Did you?
They deserve.
It began, as it so often does on TalkTV, with a sneer dressed up as analysis, with Kevin O'Sullivan perched behind a desk like a parody of moral superiority, armed with cynicism disguised as commentary. The man has really perfected the art of disdain, every syllable just dripping with contempt, every smirk totally choreographed, every rhetorical question built to manipulate rather than explore. He doesn't engage in discourse, he performs derision. So, on that day in January, when he launched into yet another recycled monologue about Harry and Meghan, the audience was primed for more of the same, that mind-numbing loop of outrage and repetition, where facts go to die and caricature reigns supreme. Meghan was, according to him, a manipulative narcissist. Harry, a brainwashed traitor. The Queen was disrespected, the nation betrayed. And Kevin, of course, was the brave little soldier defending Britain from a podcast and a documentary. The absurdity would be laughable if it weren't so corrosive. But just when it seemed the circus would run uninterrupted, a voice cut through the haze. Not shrill, not aggressive, but piercing in its clarity. Caroline from the West Midlands. Caroline didn't storm the stage. She didn't come with slogans or accusations. What she came with was something far more threatening to a pundit like Kevin O'Sullivan, the truth, simply spoken. A voice not trained for TV, not armed with a press release, not polished by a PR team, but one rooted in common sense, emotional intelligence, and moral clarity. "Why are people so upset with Harry and Meghan?" she asked, with a calmness that made the question all the more dangerous. Because once spoken aloud, the question lingers. It echoes. It peels back the layers of media hysteria and reveals a void beneath, a void where actual wrongdoing should sit, but doesn't. Caroline didn't just call in. She called out the entire charade. She held a mirror to a media establishment that has invested years in vilifying two people simply for walking away from an institution that harmed them. And Kevin, smug, unprepared, flustered, didn't have a real answer. What that moment exposed is what critics like Kevin O'Sullivan cannot afford to confront, that the narrative against Harry and Meghan is a construct, built not on truth but on resentment. Resentment that a prince rejected his script, that a black woman dared to speak, that together they rejected the idea that royalty equals silence and suffering. Caroline dared to puncture the balloon of performance, and what leaked out was the gas of embarrassment. Because in truth, no one can articulate what Harry and Meghan have actually done to deserve the level of vitriol they receive, not without reaching for absurdities, hypocrisies, or, flat-out lies. They stepped back from royal duties? So did Prince Andrew. They did a Netflix documentary? So have others. They wrote a memoir? Please. Half the royal biographers owe their mortgages to such endeavors. And yet none of them have faced the level of sustained venom that Harry and Meghan have. Why? Caroline already knows. And so do we. Let us speak plainly. Meghan's biggest crime was entering a racist, classist institution with confidence, grace, and her own voice. She didn't bend, she didn't grovel, she didn't erase herself to make others comfortable. She showed compassion. She worked hard, she smiled, she succeeded, and that was, honestly, unforgivable. Because the British press and, voices like Kevin O'Sullivan rely on a very specific version of royal femininity, one that is seen and not heard, praised and not paid, used and not uplifted. Meghan broke that mold. Harry broke the silence, and together they broke the fantasy. So, the media machine went into overdrive, weaponizing outrage to hide the truth. And Kevin, a man who claims to speak for the people, has become nothing more than a ventriloquist dummy for the very establishment he pretends to critique. Caroline reminded everyone that beyond the headlines are human beings. A man grieving the loss of his mother, determined not to let history repeat itself. A woman grappling with the psychological toll of racism and scrutiny, yet still showing up with dignity and poise. A couple choosing to raise their children away from the toxicity that nearly destroyed them. These are not villains. They are survivors. And honestly, the way they've been treated, by the palace, by the press, and by pundits like Kevin, is a national shame. Kevin can scoff and dismiss all he likes, but nothing he says will erase the fact that Caroline was right. Her question pierced the armor of propaganda because it demanded not emotion, but evidence. And when asked for proof of Harry and Meghan's supposed betrayal, all Kevin had were feelings. Inflated, unexamined, and really, ultimately, irrelevant. But that's the point, isn't it? The outrage is not rational. It's emotional manipulation dressed in national pride. So, Kevin's entire shtick, if you really look at it, depends on convincing his audience that Harry and Meghan's exit was, well, a personal attack on them. That their move to California somehow represents a rejection of every British taxpayer, every old tradition, every stiff upper lip. But honestly, it's a delusion. What Harry and Meghan rejected was not Britain. It was abuse. It was bullying. It was a contract that demanded their silence in exchange for survival. And they chose something different. Not fame, not riches, peace, privacy, joy, a different future for their children. Caroline, in one simple phone call, reminded us of that. She returned the conversation to humanity, and in doing so, she revealed just how inhumane the coverage of the Sussexes has been. So Kevin O'Sullivan's response? Well, it was honestly pretty predictable. He tried to deflect, laugh it off, and then shift the conversation to things like money, branding, Netflix, and Spotify. But honestly, the spin just didn't land. Because, you see, Caroline had already exposed the real heart of the matter. This was never about what Harry and Meghan actually did. It was always about who they are and what they represent. And for people like Kevin, folks who really cling to these outdated hierarchies and honestly fear any disruption to the status quo, that's just, terrifying. Because if Harry and Meghan can walk away and actually thrive, what does that say about the monarchy, about the press, or really about the entire manufactured image of royal duty and sacrifice? Caroline didn't just ask a question. She asked for accountability, and Kevin had none to give. This is why Caroline's voice matters. In a sea of orchestrated commentary, she brought truth. In a forum designed to mislead, she brought clarity. And in a moment meant to humiliate, she brought grace. She reminded the audience that dissent is not disloyalty, that questioning authority is not treason, that empathy is not weakness. Kevin O'Sullivan and his ilk thrive on division, on shouting matches, on sound bites. Caroline offered none of that. She offered wisdom, and that, more than anything, revealed the intellectual bankruptcy of Kevin's position. Let's be clear. Kevin O'Sullivan does not speak for Britain. He speaks for a bitter minority clinging to nostalgia and threatened by change. He speaks for those who believe tradition matters more than justice, that image matters more than truth. But the tide is turning. Caroline's call was proof of that. And the more voices like hers are heard, the less power people like Kevin will have to manipulate public opinion. Because at some point, the public will tire of the circus. They will see that the real scandal was never Harry and Meghan. The scandal is how they were treated, how the media turned them into villains to protect a system that remains allergic to accountability. So yes, let's thank Caroline. For her courage, for her decency, for speaking what so many have felt but been too afraid to say. Let's thank her for reminding the nation that criticism without cause is cruelty, that commentary without compassion is propaganda, and let's thank her for showing Kevin O'Sullivan and everyone like him that the days of unchecked media bullying are numbered, because truth always finds a way through. And on that day, the truth had a name. Her name was Carol.